The massive ships appeared on a quiet Tuesday morning. They came without warning, their dark metal hulls blocking out the sun over every major city on Earth. The ships hung motionless, like storm clouds promising rain, but delivering only silence. In the Global Defense Force headquarters, Admiral Robert Wilson stared at the screens showing live feeds from around the world. His weathered face reflected the blue glow of the monitors as he watched the same scene playing out in New York, London, Tokyo, and dozens of other cities. 30 years of military service hadn't prepared him for this moment. "Try again," he ordered the communications team. "All frequencies, all languages." The young officer at the radio station nodded, his fingers moving quickly across the equipment. The message was simple and clear. "This is Earth. We come in peace and welcome peaceful contact." They repeated it in every known language, using every possible frequency. The aliens responded with silence. Tom Miller watched from the window of his office at the military base. As a captain in the ground forces, he had trained for everything from terrorist attacks to nuclear war. But this was different. The ship above his base looked like it was made of black glass, smooth and featureless, stretching for what must have been miles. Captain Miller, his radio crackled. "Report to command immediately." In the command center, screens showed military units mobilizing worldwide. Jets circled the alien ships at safe distances. Tanks rolled into defensive positions around cities. Soldiers helped with civilian evacuations, though most people had already fled the major cities on their own. "They've been up there for 6 hours," Colonel James Baker told Tom, pointing at the main screen. No response to any attempts at communication. "The President has authorized defensive measures if they show any hostile intent." Tom nodded, studying the tactical display. Something bothered him about the ship's positioning, but he couldn't quite figure out what. "Sir, have you noticed?" The world exploded in light. The first attack came without warning. Beams of intense green energy shot down from the ships, cutting through military bases like paper. The aliens targeted communication centers, power plants, and military installations first. They knew exactly where to hit. In the chaos that followed, Tom saw things that would stay with him forever. Jets exploding in midair as they tried to engage the enemy. Tanks melted by weapons that ignored their armor. Force fields that appeared out of nowhere, stopping missiles cold. "Fall back," Tom shouted to his unit as another explosion rocked the base. "Get to the underground bunkers." He helped a wounded soldier to his feet, half carrying him toward safety. Around them, the world burned in strange green fire. The aliens' technology was beyond anything humans had imagined. Their ships could apparently ignore gravity, their weapons cut through the strongest materials, and their defenses seemed perfect. But as Tom watched them attack, something struck him as odd. The aliens were methodical, almost mechanical in their assault. They followed obvious patterns. Their ships moved in straight lines, their weapons fired at regular intervals. It was like watching a computer program run, not a battle plan created by living beings. In the bunker, Tom gathered what survivors he could find. The base's power was out, but they had emergency lights and radio equipment that still worked. Through the static-filled broadcasts, they learned that the scene was the same worldwide. The aliens, who called themselves the Dominion in their first and only transmission, were destroying military targets with terrifying efficiency. But why aren't they targeting civilians? Tom wondered aloud, marking defensive positions on a paper map by flashlight. The alien attacks, while devastating, seemed focused entirely on military and infrastructure targets. Civilian areas were largely untouched, except for those too close to military installations. A young lieutenant named Mark brought more news from a working radio. "Sir, the President has been evacuated. The aliens have knocked out most of our satellite communications, but they're leaving older radio systems alone. It's like they don't even notice them." Tom looked at his smartphone, dead and useless since the first attack, then at the old radio still crackling with transmissions. An idea started forming in his mind. He grabbed a pencil and began making notes on his paper map, marking the paths of alien ships reported by various surviving units. While the world's military forces crumbled under the technological superiority of the Dominion, Tom noticed patterns. The aliens never attacked without using their energy weapons. When human forces got too close to their ships, they always relied on force fields rather than trying to outmaneuver them. Their ships, despite their advanced technology, moved in predictable ways. "They're too perfect," Tom muttered, adding another mark to his map. "Too systematic." He remembered the tactical training exercises he'd run countless times. Human soldiers often made mistakes, had to adapt, had to think on their feet. The aliens showed none of that unpredictability. The bunker shook with another nearby explosion. Through the emergency radio, they heard that Washington, D.C. had fallen. London was dark. Beijing was under siege. But in all cases, the pattern was the same: military and technology targets destroyed, civilian areas mostly untouched. "Captain Miller," a voice called from the radio room. "We're picking up a transmission from the science complex. There's a group of researchers still alive in their underground lab. They say they've noticed something about the alien attacks, something important." Tom grabbed the radio handset. A woman's voice came through the static. "This is Dr. Walker at the Phillips Research Complex. Is anyone receiving? We've been analyzing the alien attack patterns. There's something very strange about their behavior. We need to get this data to any surviving military command." "This is Captain Tom Miller," he responded. "What have you found?" "Captain, we need to meet in person. This isn't something we should discuss over radio. We're in the underground labs. The aliens seem to ignore older infrastructure. We think we know why." Tom looked at his map again, at the patterns he'd noticed. Maybe the researchers had seen the same thing he had, something about the aliens' perfect mechanical behavior that might be a weakness rather than a strength. "Hold your position, Doctor," Tom said. "We'll find a way to reach you." He turned to his team. "Get me all the working mechanical vehicles we have, nothing with modern electronics, and find me every paper map of the area you can." As Tom organized a rescue mission using old equipment and basic tools, he couldn't shake the feeling that humanity's greatest weakness, its reliance on advanced technology, might also be its salvation. Because somewhere in the contrast between the aliens' perfect, technology-driven assault and humanity's messy, imperfect resistance, there might be a way to fight back. The aliens had won the first battle with their superior technology. But as Tom studied their patterns and prepared to move his people through the ruins of the base, he realized that this perfect technological enemy might not be as invincible as they appeared. Humanity had survived and evolved for thousands of years before computers and advanced technology. Maybe those primitive survival skills were exactly what they needed now. The war had only just begun, and humanity's greatest strength might be the very things the aliens saw as weaknesses: their imperfection, their adaptability, and their ability to survive with nothing but their wits in their hands. Tom checked his paper map one last time, strapped on his basic gear, and prepared to lead his team into the darkness. Sometimes, he thought, the old ways were the best ways. Getting to the research complex proved harder than Tom had expected. The alien ships still patrolled overhead, their green beams sweeping the landscape for any sign of modern technology. He led his small team through underground tunnels and sewers, using paper maps and compasses to navigate. Any working piece of modern equipment could give away their position. The journey that should have taken 30 minutes stretched into 3 hours. They moved carefully, stopping whenever the ground shook from nearby alien attacks. Tom's team consisted of 5 people he trusted: 2 soldiers, a medic, and 2 communications experts who knew how to work old radio equipment. They found Dr. Lisa Walker and her team in the basement of the research complex, surrounded by old equipment that looked like it belonged in a museum. Computers and modern lab equipment lay dark and silent, but she had old analog devices running, powered by a mechanical generator. "Captain Miller," she said, extending her hand. Thank you for coming. What I'm about to show you could change everything." She led them to a table covered with paper charts and hand-drawn diagrams. "We've been studying their attack patterns, but more importantly, we've been studying their movements when they think no one's watching." She pointed to a series of drawings showing alien figures in their environmental suits. "Look at this footage we captured on an old film camera before the attack. Their suits aren't just for protection, they're for basic survival. In Earth's gravity, they can barely move without technological assistance." Tom leaned closer, studying the images. The aliens moved awkwardly, like they were struggling against their own weight. "They're from a low-gravity world." "Not just that," Lisa explained, pulling out more papers. "Their entire civilization has evolved around technology. They've modified their bodies, relied on machines for so long that they've lost most of their natural physical capabilities. These beings can't even breathe our air or move properly in our gravity without mechanical help." One of Tom's soldiers, Jack, spoke up. "So without their fancy suits and weapons, they're physically weak," Lisa finished. "Their bodies have atrophied from generations of technological dependence. They've probably forgotten what it's like to do anything without machines." Tom thought about the patterns he'd noticed during the attacks. That's why their movements are so predictable. They're not really fighting. Their machines are doing all the work. Lisa nodded eagerly. "Exactly. And here's something else we've discovered." She led them to a workbench where a captured piece of alien technology lay partially dismantled. "Their technology is incredibly advanced, but it's all integrated. They don't have any backup systems that we'd recognize. No manual controls, no analog alternatives. Because they never needed them," Tom realized. "They'd never fought anyone who could take away their tech advantage." The implications started to sink in. Humanity's primitive physical capabilities, their ability to run, climb, fight hand-to-hand, and operate mechanical devices, might be their secret weapon. The aliens had evolved beyond these basic abilities, seeing them as unnecessary in their technologically advanced society. A distant explosion rocked the building, sending dust floating down from the ceiling. Lisa quickly covered the alien device with a thick cloth. "Their sensors can detect their own technology," she explained. "We have to keep it shielded." Tom shared his own observations about the aliens' attack patterns. Together, they started forming a plan. The aliens' technological superiority was their greatest strength, but it might also be their greatest weakness. They had no concept of fighting without it. "We need to test this theory," Tom said. "A small-scale attack, something to prove we can fight them on our terms." They spent the next few hours planning. Lisa's team had mapped out the aliens' patrol patterns using nothing but visual observation and hand-drawn charts. They identified a smaller alien vessel that landed regularly in a nearby clearing, probably to recharge or resupply. Tom's team prepared using only mechanical weapons and tools, crossbows instead of guns, ropes and grappling hooks, simple explosives made from basic chemicals. Everything had to be non-electronic, undetectable by alien sensors. They moved out at dusk, using the growing darkness for cover. The alien ship sat in the clearing, its smooth surface reflecting the last light of day. Two alien figures moved around it, their environmental suits glowing faintly. The attack was quick and primitive by modern military standards. Jack and another soldier used crossbows to damage the aliens' suit systems. When the beings inside stumbled, clearly struggling with Earth's gravity, Tom's team moved in with nets and ropes. The aliens proved pathetically weak in direct physical combat. Without their functioning suits, they could barely stand, let alone fight back. Within minutes, Tom's team had captured both aliens and disabled their ship using simple explosive charges placed at key points Lisa had identified. "Don't damage the suits too much," Lisa called out as they secured their prisoners. "We need to study them." Back in the research complex, Lisa's team began examining the captured equipment while Tom interrogated their prisoners. The aliens, once removed from their damaged suits, were shocking to behold. Their bodies were thin and frail, with muscles that had clearly atrophied from lack of use. They struggled to breathe Earth's air, requiring simple oxygen masks. "They've modified themselves too much," Lisa said, studying readings from an old medical monitor. "Generations of genetic engineering and technological dependence have changed their basic biology. They're not built for any kind of physical activity." The captured aliens seemed genuinely confused by their defeat. Through basic sign language and drawings, they conveyed their disbelief that primitives could have overpowered them. The concept of physical combat appeared to be completely foreign to them. "We need to get this information to other resistance groups," Tom said. "Show them how to fight back." They spent the next few hours copying their findings onto paper. Drawings of alien suit vulnerabilities, notes on their physical weaknesses, instructions for disabling their technology using simple tools. They would distribute these through the old radio network, reaching other survivors who were still fighting. "They came here expecting to find another technologically dependent civilization," Lisa said as they worked. "Instead, they found humans, stubborn, adaptable, and still capable of surviving without machines." Tom looked at their alien prisoners, now sleeping fitfully in the base's medical bay. "We're not more advanced than them," he said, "but maybe we're more complete. We never forgot our past, never lost our basic survival skills." As night fell, more reports came in through the radio network. Other resistance groups were fighting back using similar tactics. The aliens' perfect technological warfare was failing against humanity's primitive but unpredictable methods. The human race had spent thousands of years learning to survive, to adapt, to fight with whatever tools were available. These skills, which the aliens had dismissed as primitive, were about to become humanity's greatest weapon in the war for Earth's survival. Word of the successful capture spread quickly through the old radio networks. Tom and Lisa spent days sending out coded messages using Morse code and simple radio frequencies the aliens ignored. They taught other resistance groups how to fight back using basic tools and physical combat. The alien prisoners proved to be a valuable source of information. Through careful observation and basic communication, the humans learned more about their enemies. The alien society had evolved so far beyond physical labor that they didn't even prepare their own food. Machines did everything for them. They seemed genuinely puzzled by humans writing with pens or walking upstairs without automated assistance. "Send 3 teams north," Tom told his growing group of fighters. They now had over 50 people working from the hidden research complex, using the underground tunnels to move unseen. "The aliens have a major power station there. We can hit it using the same tactics." Lisa had converted part of her lab into a training area. She taught resistance members how to identify weak points in alien technology using only mechanical tools. "Their suits have backup systems," she explained to a group of fighters, pointing to a diagram drawn on a large paper sheet. "But they're designed to protect against high-tech attacks, not simple physical damage." The resistance grew stronger each day. They used old printing machines to create instruction manuals. Runners carried these papers between hidden groups, teaching others how to fight back. The aliens couldn't track paper, couldn't detect people moving on foot, couldn't understand the humans' ability to organize without modern technology. One morning, Jack rushed into the command center they'd set up in an old storage room. "Captain, you need to see this." He led Tom and Lisa to the surface, using an old periscope system to safely observe the alien ships above. The massive vessels were moving differently now. They stayed higher in the air, their movements more cautious. The aliens had learned to fear ground attacks, but they couldn't lower their guard without risking their technological systems. "They're scared," Tom said, watching through the periscope. "They've never had to deal with an enemy they can't detect." Lisa nodded, making notes in her journal. "Their entire strategy depends on fighting enemies who use the same kind of technology they do. They don't know how to handle weapons they can't see on their sensors." The resistance planned their biggest attack yet. 5 teams would strike different alien power stations simultaneously, using only mechanical weapons and physical combat skills. They had discovered that the aliens needed these stations to recharge their suits and ships. Tom led one of the teams himself. They moved through the city ruins at night, using hand signals and bird calls to communicate. Their weapons were simple but effective: crossbows, compound bows, spears, and basic explosives made from household chemicals. The power station glowed with strange blue light, surrounded by alien guards in their mechanical suits. Tom waited for the signal, 3 owl hoots in sequence. When it came, all 5 teams attacked at once. Arrows flew silently through the air, striking vulnerable points in the alien suits that Lisa had identified. The aliens stumbled, their movements becoming clumsy as their suits lost power. Human fighters emerged from hiding places, using nets and ropes to tangle the aliens' legs. The aliens tried to fight back, but their weapons were designed for long-range combat. They had no defense against humans who got close enough for hand-to-hand fighting. Without functioning suits, they could barely stand in Earth's gravity. "Plant the charges," Tom ordered, watching his team wrap heavy chains around the power station's main pylons. They used simple pull fuses, nothing electronic that alien sensors could detect. The explosion sent a shockwave through the area. The power station's blue light flickered and died. Above them, several alien ships suddenly dipped in the air, their systems disrupted by the power loss. Similar explosions lit up the night sky across the city. All 5 teams had succeeded. The aliens' perfect network was beginning to break down. Back at the base, Lisa studied reports from other resistance groups around the world. "It's working everywhere," she said excitedly. "London, Moscow, Beijing, they're all using our methods. The aliens can't adapt fast enough." The captured alien technology revealed more weaknesses. The aliens had no backup systems that could work without power. They hadn't even considered the possibility of fighting without their advanced technology. Each suit, each weapon, each ship was a masterpiece of engineering, but they all depended on a complex network of power and control systems. "They're like a person who never learned to walk because they always had a car," Lisa explained to the resistance fighters. "Take away their machines, and they're helpless." Tom watched his teams train in the underground facility. They practiced moving silently, fighting with simple weapons, operating mechanical tools, skills that humans had developed over thousands of years of evolution and survival. Skills the aliens had lost in their rush to become more advanced. The radio brought more news each day. Resistance groups were growing worldwide, all using the same basic tactics. The aliens couldn't track their communications, couldn't predict their movements, couldn't understand how these primitives were defeating their superior technology. "They're pulling back," Jack reported one evening, returning from a scouting mission. "The big ships are moving to higher altitudes. They're afraid to come close to the ground now." Tom studied their paper maps, now marked with alien positions and patrol routes. The aliens' movements were becoming more predictable as they grew more defensive. They clustered around their remaining power stations, trying to protect their vital infrastructure. "They never expected this kind of fight," Lisa said, working on a new manual for disabling alien ships. "Their entire society is built on the assumption that advanced technology always wins. They don't understand that sometimes the simplest solution is the best." The resistance had learned to use the aliens' assumptions against them. They left broken electronic devices as bait, ambushing the aliens who came to investigate. They used mirrors and simple light signals to confuse alien targeting systems. They turned the aliens' perfect, predictable patterns into traps. Each victory brought more survivors to their cause. People who had hidden from the initial invasion now emerged to join the resistance. They brought with them old tools, mechanical devices, and most importantly, the human spirit of adaptation and survival. "We're not just fighting their technology," Tom told his teams. "We're fighting their whole way of thinking. They believe being advanced means depending on machines for everything. We know that true advancement means keeping our basic strengths while moving forward." The aliens had come to Earth expecting to find another civilization, trapped by its own technology. Instead, they found humans, resourceful, adaptable, and still connected to their primitive roots. These qualities, which the aliens saw as weaknesses, had become humanity's greatest weapons in the fight for survival. After weeks of successful attacks, Tom and Lisa finally had a chance to study the alien technology they'd captured. In a secure underground room, shielded from alien sensors, they examined pieces of equipment from various raids. But their most valuable discovery came from an unexpected source. One of the captured aliens, whom the humans had started calling First Speaker because he made an effort to communicate, began drawing pictures to tell them about his civilization. His thin fingers shook as he worked, struggling against Earth's gravity, but his message became clear through diagrams and simple symbols. "Look at this," Lisa said, spreading out the drawings on their planning table. They've conquered hundreds of worlds, but every civilization they encountered was like them, completely dependent on advanced technology. The pictures showed planet after planet falling to the Dominion's superior weapons. But in every case, they fought enemies who used energy weapons, force fields, and automated systems. Never in their history had they faced a species that could fight without technology. Tom studied a drawing of the aliens' home world, a low-gravity planet where machines did all physical work. "They're trapped by their own advancement," he said. "They've evolved so far in one direction that they can't go back." A runner brought news from the surface. The Resistance's latest victories had forced the aliens to change tactics. Their ships now stayed in tight formations, never moving alone. They had started destroying their own damaged vessels rather than risk them being captured. "They're scared," Jack said, returning from a scouting mission. "Their perfect invasion is falling apart, and they don't know how to adapt." Lisa worked with First Speaker, learning more about alien technology through drawings and gestures. The alien seemed fascinated by how humans could work without machines. He watched in amazement as Lisa used simple tools to repair equipment. "Their entire society is built on a network," Lisa explained to the Resistance leaders. "Every piece of their technology connects to a central system. That's why they're so efficient, but it's also why they're vulnerable. They've never needed independent systems." Tom saw an opportunity in this weakness. "If we can find their main control center," he said, "we might be able to shut down everything at once." Through more drawings, First Speaker revealed that each alien fleet had a command ship that coordinated all operations in its area. These ships stayed high in orbit, directing the attack vessels below through an advanced computer network. The Resistance developed their boldest plan yet. They would capture an alien shuttle, using it to reach the command ship, but they would fight their way through it using only mechanical weapons, things the aliens couldn't detect or stop. "It's risky," Tom told his team as they prepared, "but they won't expect an attack like this. They don't believe we can even reach their command ship, let alone fight inside it." They spent days practicing in mock-up corridors built to match First Speaker's drawings. The team learned to move in zero gravity using ropes and mechanical tools. They developed weapons that would work in space: spring-powered projectiles, manually operated grappling guns, and simple explosives that didn't need oxygen to work. The first part of their plan worked perfectly. They ambushed a small alien shuttle when it landed for maintenance, overwhelming its crew with simple weapons before they could send a distress signal. Lisa's team had studied the shuttle's controls through First Speaker's drawings, learning how to operate its basic functions. "Remember," Tom told his strike team as they prepared to board the shuttle, "once we're up there, we fight only with mechanical weapons, nothing they can detect." The shuttle ride was tense. They wore modified old spacesuits, rescued from a museum and adapted for their needs. The suits had no electronics, just pressurized air and basic life support systems run by mechanical pumps. The command ship grew larger in their view, its smooth black surface reflecting the stars. They approached from below, using the shuttle's captured codes to dock at a maintenance bay. The aliens never expected their own vessel to be used against them. Inside the command ship, the team moved silently through the corridors. The aliens had no defenses against intruders who carried no electronic equipment. Their sensors swept for energy signatures but couldn't detect the simple weapons the humans carried. They don't even have manual door controls, Lisa whispered as they passed through another automated doorway. They never thought they'd need them. The team fought their way to the ship's control center using crossbows, nets, and hand-to-hand combat. The aliens, already weak in normal gravity, were even more helpless in their own artificial gravity environment. They had never trained for physical combat, never expected to need such primitive skills. In the control center, Lisa worked quickly to understand the alien systems. The captured technology and first speaker's drawings had prepared her for this moment. The aliens had built redundancies into their network, but all of them were technological. They had no manual overrides, no backup systems that worked independently. "Plant the charges," Tom ordered. Watching this, his team placed simple explosive devices at key points. These bombs were mechanical, using chemical reactions that needed no electronic detonators. The alien commanders tried to stop them, but their weapons needed power from the ship's systems to work. When the first explosion damaged the power core, their technology began to fail. Without working suits, they could barely move. The entire command ship went dark as the explosion's chain reacted through its systems. Below, the attack ships suddenly lost coordination. Without the command ship's network to guide them, their perfect formation fell apart. "Send the signal," Tom said, and Lisa used an old signal lamp to flash a message to the resistance below. All across the region, hidden teams began their attacks. The aliens, cut off from their command network, couldn't organize a defense against the wave of primitive but effective weapons. As they fought their way back to the shuttle, Tom saw the same confusion in every alien they encountered. These beings had never imagined fighting without their technology. They had no concept of backup plans that didn't rely on computers and power systems. From the shuttle's window, they watched the command ship drift powerless in orbit. Below, more explosions lit up the night as resistance forces attacked the confused alien fleet. Their perfect invasion had been broken by the very primitiveness they had dismissed. Back at the base, Lisa worked with First Speaker to understand the full impact of their victory. The alien drew more pictures, showing how the loss of one command ship would affect the entire invasion force. The Dominion's strength lay in its perfect coordination, its networked systems. Without that, they were lost. "They'll have to retreat," Lisa told the resistance leaders. "Their whole way of fighting depends on technology we can now defeat. They've never learned any other way." Tom looked at the night sky through their periscope, watching alien ships move in confused patterns without their command ship's guidance. "Sometimes," he said, "the oldest solutions are the best ones." The aliens had come to Earth expecting another technologically dependent civilization. Instead, they found humans, beings who had kept their primitive strengths while advancing their technology. This balance, which the aliens saw as a weakness, had become humanity's greatest weapon in the fight for survival. The destruction of the command ship had a bigger effect than anyone expected. Alien ships across the region flew in chaos, their perfect formation broken. But Tom knew they couldn't celebrate yet. Other command ships still operated around the world, and the Dominion would learn from this defeat. "They're changing tactics," Lisa said one morning, studying reports from resistance groups worldwide. She pointed to a pattern drawn on their map. "The other command ships have moved closer to Earth. They're trying to shorten their communication range to prevent more attacks like ours." Through First Speaker, they learned something new about the alien fleet. The Dominion had never lost a command ship before. Their entire invasion strategy was built on the assumption that primitive species couldn't reach their command vessels. Now that humans had proven them wrong, the aliens were struggling to adapt. "Look at this," Tom said, pointing to new alien movements their scouts had reported. The remaining ships had gathered into tight clusters around their power stations. They were protecting their weaknesses, but also limiting their ability to attack. Lisa spent more time with First Speaker, learning about the Dominion's history through his drawings. The aliens had spent so many generations depending on machines that they had lost more than just physical strength. They had lost the ability to think independently, to adapt quickly to new situations. Their whole society works like one big machine, Lisa explained to the resistance leaders. Every action is coordinated through their network. They don't know how to make decisions without consulting their central command. The resistance used this weakness to plan their biggest operation yet. Teams around the world would attack all remaining command ships simultaneously. But this time, the aliens would be expecting them. They've strengthened their defenses, Tom told his strike team. But they're still thinking like machines. All their new security measures are technological. They still haven't learned to guard against simple physical attacks. The resistance gathered their forces. Old military veterans taught young fighters how to use bows and crossbows. Engineers designed new mechanical weapons that could work in space. Everyone trained in hand-to-hand combat, knowing they might need to fight the aliens directly. Lisa made an important discovery while studying the captured alien technology. Their suits have a fatal flaw, she announced. They're designed to protect against energy weapons and extreme conditions, but they can't handle simple physical damage. A hard enough hit in the right spot will break their air seals. The resistance adapted their weapons based on this knowledge. They added sharp points to their arrows, designed to puncture suit seals. They created simple pressure weapons using compressed air, powerful enough to crack alien helmets. The night before the global attack, Tom found Lisa working late in her lab. She was drawing diagrams based on First Speaker's latest information. The alien had shown them something surprising. The Dominion had no concept of defeat. In their entire history, they had never failed to conquer a world. That's why they can't adapt, Lisa said, looking up from her work. They've never needed to change their tactics before. They've never faced an enemy who could fight back like this. The global attack began at dawn. Resistance teams around the world moved against command ships using captured shuttles. The aliens had improved their security, but they still couldn't detect weapons that used no power, couldn't stop fighters who relied on physical strength and simple tools. Tom led one of the main assault teams. They fought their way through improved alien defenses, using lessons learned from their first attack. The aliens had added more automated security systems, but they hadn't posted physical guards. They still couldn't imagine humans reaching their command ships. They never learn, Jack said as they moved through the corridors, disabling security systems with simple mechanical tools. They just add more technology, thinking that will solve everything. In the command center, they found something new. The aliens had installed backup power systems, redundant computer networks, and improved electronic defenses, but they hadn't trained their crews in physical combat. They hadn't given them weapons that could work without power. The fighting was harder this time, but the result was the same. The resistance teams planted their mechanical explosives at key points. When the bombs went off, the command ship's perfect systems fell apart. The aliens, still unable to function without their technology, couldn't stop the humans from taking control. Around the world, other teams reported similar successes. Command ships fell dark, their crews helpless without working suits and weapons. The Dominion's invasion force, cut off from central control, began to break apart. "Send the signal," Tom ordered. Lisa used their simple light beacon to flash a message to the resistance below. All across the region, hidden fighters emerged to attack the confused alien ships. The invaders, unable to coordinate their defense, fell back in disorder. But the most surprising development came from First Speaker. As they watched the alien fleet retreat, he drew new pictures showing something unexpected. The Dominion's rigid, machine-like society was falling into chaos. The loss of so many command ships had disrupted their entire civilization's network. They're not just losing this battle, Lisa realized, studying the drawings. Their whole society is starting to break down. They depend so much on their network that they can't function without it. Reports came in from around the world. Alien ships were retreating into space, abandoning their power stations and ground forces. Without their command network, their perfect coordination had turned into perfect confusion. In their underground base, The resistance leaders watched through salvage telescopes as the alien fleet broke formation. Ships designed to work together couldn't operate independently. Crews trained to follow network commands couldn't make their own decisions. "We didn't just defeat their invasion," Tom said, watching the aliens retreat. "We showed them the flaw in their whole civilization. They sacrificed their independence for perfect technology, and now they're paying the price." First speaker drew one final picture before the remaining aliens fled. It showed the Dominion's homeworld, but with a question mark beside it. The aliens seemed to be asking a question that shook his entire worldview. What good was perfect technology if it made you powerless without it? The Resistance had proven something that would change both human and alien societies forever. True strength didn't come from having the most advanced technology. It came from maintaining balance, keeping basic skills while moving forward, remembering old wisdom while embracing new ideas. As the alien ships disappeared into space, Tom and Lisa knew that humanity had learned an important lesson too. They would rebuild their technology, but they would never forget the strength that saved them. Their ability to survive and fight with nothing but their hands, their courage, and their determination to remain free. 3 months after the alien retreat, Earth was starting to rebuild. The resistance groups had become reconstruction teams, helping restore power and communications to damaged cities. But they kept their mechanical weapons and basic tools, remembering the lessons they had learned. Tom stood at the window of the restored Global Defense Force headquarters, watching workers repair buildings in the city below. They used a mixture of old and new methods, modern construction equipment working alongside simple pulleys and levers. No one wanted to depend completely on advanced technology anymore. "The last alien ship left our solar system yesterday," Lisa said, walking into the room with a stack of papers. She still preferred writing things down by hand, a habit many people had adopted during the war. "Our deep space monitors tracked them all the way out. They're not coming back." First speaker had chosen to stay behind when his people retreated. He now worked with Lisa's research team, helping humans understand alien technology while learning about Earth's simpler ways of doing things. His body was slowly adapting to Earth's gravity, growing stronger through physical exercise, something his people had forgotten was possible. "Look at this," Lisa said, spreading out first speaker's latest drawings on the table. They showed changes happening in the Dominion society. The loss of their invasion fleet and the failure of their perfect network had forced them to rediscover old skills they have forgotten. "They're learning from their defeat," Tom said, studying the pictures, "just like we're learning from our victory." Around the world, humanity was finding a new balance between progress and preservation. Military forces kept both high-tech weapons and simple mechanical ones. Schools taught both computer programming and basic survival skills. People embraced technology, but remembered they could live without it. First speaker had drawn more pictures showing the impact of Earth's victory on other worlds. Many civilizations under Dominion control had seen how humans defeated their supposedly invincible conquerors. They too were rediscovering their forgotten physical abilities and basic skills. "The Dominion's perfect empire is falling apart," Lisa explained, pointing to the drawings. "Not from outside attack, but from within. Their subject worlds are learning from Earth's example. Technology is important, but it shouldn't make you forget how to survive without it." Tom received reports from new defense installations being built around the world. They all followed the same principle: advanced systems backed up by simple mechanical ones. Humanity would never again be caught helpless by an enemy who could disable their technology. "We're getting signals from some of the former Dominion worlds," Lisa said, showing him more of first speaker's drawings. "They want to learn from us. Not about our technology, but about how we kept our independence and physical capabilities while advancing." First speaker had become an eager student of human ways. He learned to walk without his suit, to use simple tools, to think independently. His example inspired other alien civilizations to remember abilities they had lost in their rush to become more advanced. "Look at this," Tom said, pointing to a construction site across the street. Workers were installing a new power system, but they also had backup generators and manual controls. We're not going backward. We're moving forward more wisely. The alien invasion had taught humanity an important lesson. Their greatest strength wasn't their technology or their primitive skills. It was their ability to use both together. They had found a balance that made them stronger than civilizations that relied too heavily on either extreme. Lisa's research team made another discovery while studying the abandoned alien technology. The Dominion's obsession with perfect technological advancement had led them to modify their own bodies, making them dependent on machines. But First Speaker proved that this could be reversed. Through physical training and gradual adaptation, his people could regain their natural abilities. They thought they were evolving, Lisa said, watching First Speaker easily lift a box that would have been impossible for him months ago. But they were actually limiting themselves. True advancement means growing stronger, not becoming dependent. The world's governments created a new defense protocol based on their experience. Every critical system now had both high-tech and mechanical backups. Military forces trained in both modern and ancient combat techniques. The lesson of balance became part of humanity's core principles. First Speaker's latest drawings showed something unexpected: changes in alien children. Young Dominion members, inspired by Earth's example, were choosing to develop their physical abilities instead of relying entirely on mechanical assistance. A new generation was growing up understanding the importance of balance. "We didn't just win a war," Tom said, looking at the pictures. "We started a revolution, not through force, but by showing there's a better way." Around the world, museums now displayed both alien technology and the simple weapons that defeated it. Children learned about the war not as a triumph of primitive ways over advanced ones, but as proof that true strength comes from maintaining both. "Other worlds are following our example," Lisa said, showing reports from deep space monitoring stations. Signals from distant planets showed civilizations throwing off Dominion control, not by fighting, but by rediscovering their own forgotten strengths. The resistance fighters became teachers, showing others how to balance old skills with new technology. Their experience proved that advancement didn't have to mean dependency. Humanity could reach for the stars while keeping their feet firmly on the ground. First Speaker's final drawing showed Earth as a beacon, its light reaching other worlds. But it wasn't the light of superior technology or military might. It was the light of wisdom, the understanding that true progress means growing stronger, not weaker. "We're ready now," Tom said, watching a new defense satellite launch into orbit. Unlike the old ones, it had manual controls and could be operated without advanced computers if needed, ready for whatever comes next. The alien invasion had tried to destroy humanity's civilization. Instead, it had made it stronger. Earth now stood as an example to the galaxy, proof that the best way forward was not to abandon the past, but to carry its strengths into the future. As the sun set on another day of rebuilding, Tom and Lisa watched First Speaker teaching a group of children. He showed them how to use simple tools, while they showed him how to play without technology. It was a perfect symbol of the new way. Different cultures learning from each other, finding strength in balance rather than extremes. The story of Earth's victory would be told for generations, not as a tale of primitives defeating machines, but as proof that true advancement means becoming more capable, not more dependent. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged stronger, wiser, and ready to help others find the same balance they had discovered.